Perfect. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever across the world you've dialed in from. Welcome to the session. And as you can see, this is a very glittery session. We're going to have fun for the next about 35-40 minutes. And then I'll be around to take some questions if there are. And the topic that I'm going to talk today is security adds glitter to DevSecOps. So that's going to be presented by me and my co-presenter, Gloria. So let's give an introduction about who we are and where we are coming from. So I started all the way back in the year 2000. I did my engineering and computer science from India. And along the last about 21 years, I've had the opportunity to work in software companies, in startups, in services companies, SI, in product companies. And today I am the global head, Agile, DevSecOps, and Cloud Solutions at Zensar Technologies. I was in the UK for a couple of years. I've now moved back to India. That's where I'm located currently. I'm also the global community ambassador at DevOps Institute and CDF, Continuous Delivery Foundation. These guys are the maintainers of stuff like Spinnaker, Jenkins, Tektron, etc. Outside of the technology world, I'm a macro photography enthusiast. On a rainy day, you can leave me on a patch of 6 feet by 6 feet. I'm a happy camper all day long. Outside of my technology, I also dabble a little bit into spirituality. I have a service called Soul Hands. You can check me out on Facebook and Instagram. That helps me maintain a bit of sanity up here, kind of balances the worlds. And along the way, I also happen to write a book on how to build a career in DevOps or DevSecOps. It's available on Amazon worldwide. You can go check it out. So that's a little bit about myself and where I'm coming from. Now let me introduce Gloria. So Gloria is a character. She's a rhino. This is from a book by Stella J. Jones. Full credit to her. And my 7-year-old daughter was reading this book a while back. And while glancing through the book, I happened to relate to Gloria, and I happened to relate that to DevSecOps and the work that we were doing for one particular engagement of ours. And that's how this idea started germinating, that the world that Gloria lives in and what she does is very, very closely related to DevSecOps and security. And that was the genesis of this talk. So let me go deep dive in. There was once a little rhino named Gloria, and Gloria's favorite color was glitter, which is silly because everyone knows glitter isn't a real color. But did Gloria care? No, she did not. So here's Gloria talking about her favorite color, glitter, and everybody acknowledging that glitter isn't a real color. The way I relate that, DevOps' favorite color is security. And the reason I say that is because security adds the glitter to DevSecOps. Now, everybody knows that security isn't just a real color. It isn't just a tool or a process which is embedded in. You can't say that, hey, I'm doing 45 scans, so I'm DevSecOps enabled. You can't say I'm using Sonar Cube. That makes me DevSecOps enabled. It's not just that. It's a lot more than that. It's a mindset. And I'll talk a little bit more about as we go forward on. Everywhere Gloria went, she left a little bit of glittery happiness behind her, just like this. Everywhere that you go in the software development lifecycle, add a bit of security. No matter what role you're doing today in the software development lifecycle, think about how you can add a security element to that. And that's how you make the security mindset actionable. That's what makes security doable in every single part of the software development lifecycle. And I'll talk about a little bit about what your role is. I'll take a couple of scenario roles and see how you can contribute to security. But the underlying thought is no matter what your role in the entire development lifecycle is, put on a bit of security hat, sprinkle a little bit of security in what you're doing. And so most of you would have seen this. This is called the, the DevOps periodic table. It's published by digital.ai. I've given the link here. If you can just search for DevOps periodic table digital.ai, you will get this. Now, this talks about a lot of tools out there. This is one view of them. And what I've selected in blue is the security tools which are associated. Now, by no means, these are the only tools available out there, but this gives you a good mix of what all is available out there. It'll give you a good glance at it. This is the famous DevSecOps reference architecture by Sonar Cube. They update this architecture, I think, almost every year. If you've not had a look at this, it's a phenomenal document to spend and learn about. I've given the link here. You just type DevSecOps reference architecture by Sonar Cube. You will get this. They make it available to the public every year. And what they talk about here is how security can be embedded in each and every step of the development lifecycle. What are the various interaction points? And also, what are the composites against each of the interaction points? So it's a great architecture to look at. What this also conveys is no matter where you sit in the software development lifecycle, there are a bunch of tools which would help you sprinkle that glitter of security in your area. And that's why I thought I would represent this. So Gloria glittered the banker, the barber, the baker. She dazzled the chef and the cabinet maker. In our language, add security to the product owner, the UX designer, of course, the developer, the tester, the release manager, the operations person, the support person, the network engineer, the cloud person, everybody. Everybody has a role to play. Everybody needs to add that little bit of glitter of security to the automated pipelines, to DevOps. And you can learn about each one of these. You can spend some time researching on how, as a tester, I'm supposed to contribute to security. There are lots of tools and tutorials out there, but that's the central theme that I'm going to leave you with. Another thing that I want to talk about, which is picking up very well now, is compliance as code, which means codifying the compliant requirement, codifying the security compliance requirements within your code, which makes compliance as a code and embeds security everywhere. I have a couple of examples for this. For example, this is the Jenkins pipeline written in Jenkins 2.0 and up, written as Groovy scripting, which enables Sonar Cube and also puts in the quality gates in Sonar Cube. So what happens is if your pipeline does not meet the quality gate, you will abort the pipeline. So that's how you start codifying security within your software development pipeline. I've taken an example out of Qualys. There are several other tools that do similar things, but this I found is a good illustration on how do you build security across the container lifecycle as well. All the way from the pre-deployment phase of build and ship to the post-deployment phase of running and hosting it. So everywhere security can be embedded across the entire lifecycle. And there are several other tools which do similar things. Don't they look glorious? Don't they look happy? Actually, they don't look very happy, do they? No more glitter, Gloria. They all told the little rhino. So as you can see, as Gloria goes ahead and starts spreading the glitter, people start getting angry. They don't look very happy because they don't like the glitter, right? And that is exactly what happens because people don't seem to be very happy with security being sprinkled all around. One reason for that is because now they have to learn new things. Now they have to embed security as part of their roles. And another very softer element to this is the loss of control, the feeling of a loss of control. And I want to talk a little bit about this feeling of loss of control. If you've read about Andon cords, these are coming from the famous Ford times when Ford has the big manufacturing, engineering assembly lines. You can see the guy there, he's pulling out a cord. So the legend says that during the manufacturing times, when anybody on the shop floor, when he or she saw an issue with the car, saw a defect with the car, they had the authority to pull the Andon card and stop the production line. What that would ensure is consistent quality. What that also ensured is the ability in each and every shop floor worker's hand to potentially stop the shipping line. That was very famously called the Andon cord. Now, those were the initial days of extensive manual labors. What you see, those boards represented, those are the modern forms of Andon boards, which are still existing today on shop floors for car manufacturers. I've taken this picture from a Ford factory in Detroit, Michigan. Now, instead of the physical Andon cord, today they have buttons where you can push and stop the assembly line. The same analogy represents in software as well, where a CICD pipeline enabled by thresholds to alert, enabled by a discipline to stop the deployment production line, which is your CI/CD pipeline, is an equivalent of an Andon cord. And once this is enabled, if a serious vulnerability occurs, you have the potential to stop the build right there. These are examples. Obviously, the build, this is an example of a Jenkins pipeline, a very simplest example. Obviously, if the build break happens, the pipeline is going to break. If the unit test fail, the pipeline is going to break. If the security vulnerable is detected, the pipeline is going to break again. So let's go to Sonar Cube. Let me give you an example there. So for those of you who are familiar with this Sonar Cube's screen, it's pretty clear. We're talking about reliability, security, maintainability, duplication, and you can set thresholds on each one to break the build if there are serious vulnerabilities or serious defects which are found out. Right? So that's the Andon cord. One caveat I want to give here, if your team is newly thinking about putting in Sonar Cube, be aware of the Sonar Cube circle. What happens is the moment you start putting Sonar Cube in your project, in your product, you will suddenly get 1 million errors thrown out, which is potentially probably 20, 30, 50 errors multiplied 1,000 times. That's how you get the 1 million errors. But that typically sends teams on a tailspin and a huge technology backlog, a tech debt. So be sensitive, break down that big number into smaller buckets, pick the higher vulnerabilities and try and solve that and get the biggest value. Just don't be intimidated when you see that big Sonar Cube number of issues. Don't get worried by that. That's okay. So just wanted to mention that for teams who have been using Sonar Cube for a while, but not getting the value of it, or who are just thinking about doing Sonar Cube. Because I have seen enough and more teams out there who got very excited by Sonar Cube or equivalent tools. But today It is just a tool in their software pipeline. It creates a dashboard. Nobody really looks at it. Nobody cares about it. And life is going on. So it's a powerful tool. You need to know how to use it. So just thought I'll put in my perspective there as well. So there was only one thing to do, scrub that glitter off. But as everybody knows, once Gloria's glitter is used, it goes everywhere. And spoiler alert, it's about to get messy. That's what Gloria figured out about the glitter. Once you get security into the DNA, it just organically spreads everywhere. Once you start talking security as code, once you start including security in your DevOps pipeline, that's when it starts spreading organically across the entire enterprise. That's when security moves from a check right at the end of a release, right down into the first commit of a developer into the source code, which is integrated with the CI system right there. And not just for code, but for the database as well, because now database is also treated as code. You have things like the Sonar Cube, the Liquiways, the Daticles, the Flyways of the world. They can also integrate security elements into database coding. So that's the holistic angle of security. Now let's talk about a little bit about e-learning. And if you want to get into the DevSecOps space, how do you learn about it? How do you go from there? So these are not specific recommendations. These are things that I have used. I have recommended to other teams. They have found it useful as well. So I wanted to share with the community. Right? So first is practical DevSecOps Studio. It's a fantastic package where you can learn about what DevSecOps is. They talk about the AppSec pipeline. You can understand all of that. You can talk about the tool sets. You can talk about the roadmap. And you can literally set up the DevSecOps Studio project in just a matter of an hour or so. And it'll give you a very rounded, very holistic perspective of what DevSecOps is. It's a great way to get started and to set up your own pipeline, to set up instances of some tools and then get started very quickly. So highly recommended. The second is, of course, IBM. They have been the trailblazers of DevSecOps for a really long time. And IBM's documentation, I don't need to talk about it. All of you know how great that is. IBM has a dedicated section, like everything on earth, about DevSecOps as well, which is very well curated. It gives you a very simplistic view of DevSecOps. If you're just looking at getting started in DevSecOps, this is a great area where they explain to you what is DevSecOps, what the benefits of DevSecOps are, some very practical examples. And then they go into the IBM tech stack and then talk about how you can practically use and embed DevSecOps within their stack. So if you're anywhere in the IBM stack, this is a fantastic read. Even if you're not on the IBM stack, but if you're new to DevSecOps, this is again a great place to get yourself updated. I've picked up this course from Udemy because I really like the content of this course and the way it is delivered. Again, this is just one thing that I like. There are several other courses out there. So you can go, you can try it out. And this specifically focuses on Jenkins pipeline along with Docker containers. So because of Docker, it makes the setting up of the pipeline very easy. If you have a little bit idea about Docker, then I would highly recommend this case. If you're not comfortable with Docker, if you've never toyed around or set up Docker, then if things go well, it'll work. But if things get a little hairy, if your version of Windows or Linux or Mac, whatever you uses, use. If that doesn't work with the out-of-the-box Docker setup, you could run into some issues. But if you have some level of basic level of expertise with Docker, go ahead and try this course. It conveys all the fundamentals and it's got good explanation along with a good modern tool stack, which will get you up to speed fairly quickly. And then there is this company which provides practical DevSecOps training and certification. What I really like about them is the material that they have and the services that they provide, pretty exhaustive material. So if you're curious to get on a path of certifications, you can check their website. You can also go to GSDC, the organizers of this conference. They also have some pretty good courses on DevSecOps. So you can go check out that as well. And I think that's my last slide. So I'll be around for some time if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts. And I guess that's it from my side. Thank you very much.